Not even a scratch.
If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have defeated them. Thanks for all the help.
What the? Not even! You were super awesome all by yourself!
What?
I totally forgot you were here, cause you're like so forgettable.
Say your goodbyes, chick, cause once we're outside, I'm murderizing you!
Alright, my friends, Dandadan, episode number 7 of season 2, or episode 20, depending how you are cataloging or keeping track of it. And, you know, one of my biggest pet peeves when reviewing anime, and totally not your fault, just kind of is what it is, not my fault either, is one of my biggest pet peeves is having to be a Debbie Downer, having to be really negative when it comes to certain anime. Especially, you know, I'm always very cautious when I'm reviewing really beloved anime, right? That's why my heart goes out to those who are reviewing, you know, One Piece, or who have reviewed like One Piece every week, because that's just like, you know, that people have that anime on a pedestal. Same thing with like Attack on Titan and stuff. And the reality is there's some episodes that just suck. There's some episodes that are just shitty. There's some episodes that are just boring. And a lot of times there's a lot of folks out there, not you listening to this, but, you know, there's a lot of folks out there who get it like really emotional, or they take it to heart like you're coming after like their beloved, right? Now, when it comes to this episode, the reason I want to start off with that is I just don't think episode 20 was very good. Now, of course, wait. That doesn't imply like, oh, the fight, you know, between the music, you know, Beethoven's and whatever, between them and between Okarun was bad by any means, okay? I don't mean that it was bad. But how you feel about the episode is going to depend on what side of the fight you land on. So for me, you're going to be either, you're going to be like, that fight was incredible, it lit up my screen, it was the best thing ever, or you're going to be on the camp of, it wasn't. And unfortunately, I'm over here. And although I want to recognize the fight itself was good, I keep getting reminded by a lot of the members in the community that like, hey, Dandadan, the point of Dandadan isn't the fights. And I'm just like, well, I would be remiss to think that that's not the case, considering how often and how frequent and how much of a centerpiece the fights really are. And again, I want to acknowledge the fight between Ken, or the fight between Okarun and Aira versus, you know, all of the pianists and, you know, the Beethovens and whatever else was good. This episode was just a big filler episode for Okarun to learn how to be quick, right? To be on tempo, to learn how to be faster. And I guess the secondary thing that it may have accomplished outside of teaching him how to do those things was it had him and Aira get closer. So, you know, Aira just fell deeper in love with Okarun this episode. And then at the end of it, he ends up challenging 𝐤𝐸 at the end, you know, or challenging the evil eye. But really, this was just one big episode. This was one big training episode. This was one, you know, this was like a mini training arc episode for Okarun. And I acknowledge that it has its use. It provides context. It gives us the look into him, you know, actually training and whatever else. So it is a useful episode. But when I'm looking at episodes, I always have to put it on the scale of how entertained or how bored was I. And I just felt like, even though, again, I want to make sure, I've said this 3 times, but I'm going to say it a 4th, the fight was good. I was just very whelmed. Again, the fight was good. Remember, I did say that. The fight was good. But I was whelmed by it. I wasn't like overstimulated. I wasn't like jumping out of my chair like I would maybe like a Solo Leveling or a Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan fight. I was just very whelmed by it. It felt like it was by the numbers. This time it was by the music notes. And it was all, again, just a thing to get Okarun to be quicker, faster, better, so he could protect and fight against 𝐤𝐸, so he could protect Momo, he could protect Aira, he could protect 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 and Turbo Granny, you know, the ones close to him. Which, again, totally fine. But I was just very whelmed by the episode. And again, I want to make sure, like, you know, hey, I hate being a Debbie Downer. I hate being a negative Nancy. But it's just one of those things where, like, I felt like it was an okay episode. Like, 6 out of 10 for me. Again, it was bombastic. The art was amazing. Those are the things that get it to that 6-point scale. But then the 4-point scale that gets brought down it was a little bit boring. It was just whelmed. I was just whelmed by it. The fight, like, they won, you know, although it was difficult, they still won it pretty easily. And it was all just to protect and be there for a character that frankly, I've said a few times, I just don't like, you know? And that does diminish my personal, and again, not yours, but like my personal experience for it. Just like, I just don't like Gigi. I just don't like him. So when we have things that are centered around or for him, I'm just, you know, it's just really whatever to me. So this episode, I would say it was a 6 out of 10 episode. I think it was a totally fine episode, Don. And I want to acknowledge, like I said, that there's going to be folks on the opposite side that thought that this was the best thing to ever hit their eyeballs and they loved it and whatever else. And those feelings and opinions are totally valid. I just don't share them. I'm ready to move on from the Gigi arc. I've been ready to move on from the Gigi arc all season long. I did see a trailer, I think, on Twitter this morning where it looks like there's another character being introduced, like some fat dude. So I'm ready to move on to that and whatever that employs. Because, yeah, I'm just over it, you know? But hopefully we get more Momo and Okarun on screen. You know, their love has been blossoming. That's been the kind of like thing keeping me like really, you know, centered around the show is like, okay, I can get all over all this as long as I see them hold hands or maybe kiss again for the first time, or, you know, or something else happens between them that brings me back into the show. But when we tread further away from that, or when we even shift the focus to Aira or any other girl who may come into the mix, I'm just like, I like Aira. I think she's awesome. I think she had the best storyline of Dandadan, the most emotional, most impactful. But when it comes to romance between her and Okarun, I'm just like, man, I don't think we need that. So, anyways, light me up in the comments, my friends. This was another week of Dandadan. I'll see you guys next week for episode number 21. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day and weekend and whatever else comes up. Peace out.